begin with the Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. So thank you for coming, everyone, and thank you for the honor of being invited here to teach. I'm looking forward to a beautiful weekend with so many old friends and new friends, inshallah. So, the theme I noticed of the weekend is walking in mercy. And I'm teaching 3 times this weekend, once today, once tomorrow, once on Sunday. So I thought that I would base my 3 teachings around various aspects of mercy. And so, and in fact, I based them on the surah that I've written up on the whiteboard for you. This is a surah, for those who don't know, is a verse, a chapter of the surah of the Quran. And then when we say ayat, we mean a verse. So it's like chapter and verse in the Bible. We say surah and ayat in the Quran. So this ayat that's written on the board is from Surah Hud, the Prophet Hud. In English, he's the prophet. It's from the surah named after the Prophet Hud, but it's actually the Prophet Shuaib, Jethro in English, who was the father-in-law of Musa, the Prophet Moses. And this ayat is the Prophet Shuaib speaking to the people, his people of Midian. They lived in the area of Midian. And he says to his people, "And ask forgiveness of your Lord, then repent to him. Indeed, my Lord is most merciful, most loving." So I thought I've chosen for the 3 topics, I'm going to speak about the 3 qualities from this, 3 of the 4 qualities in this ayat. Mercy, today we're going to speak about mercy, tomorrow love, and then Sunday about forgiveness. So you'll notice that I've got glasses here, and I don't wear them while I'm teaching because I'm actually short-sighted, and if I wear them I can't read my notes. But if I don't have them on, I can't see you very clearly, so you're all blurry out there. So I'm happy to be interrupted if I say anything that you don't understand or anything that's new to you and you want to ask a question, just wave at me. If I don't notice you, then call out. Because I just see a blur of faces out there. So we're going to talk today about mercy. Now, in any discussion of mercy, we should begin with the Quran, because the name for mercy, one of the names for mercy, the most merciful, Ar-Rahman, occurs 171 times in the Quran. 120 times with other attributes, and 49 times separately. Of course, we know it occurs 113 times as is repeated at the beginning of each surah in the Quran. Every surah in the Quran except one begins with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, although it's not officially regarded as an ayat of the surah except for the Fatiha, the very beginning of the Quran. So it occurs 171 times, 122 times with other attributes, and 49 times separately. So what's important for us to learn is to read the Quran in the correct way. Just signal me if my voice gets soft, if I pull this away too far. We need to learn the Quran in the correct way. And when we read the Quran, we're always reading the Quran according to our station. So, like most of life, what we experience, what we understand, comes from what we understand from the station that we're in right now. So reading the Quran depends on how we understand it, depends on the station that we're reading from. Because when we read the letters in the Quran, we can think of what we're really looking at is the darkness of the letters. So we have the darkness of the letters, which have come down to us in physical form, in the station of being here in the world, in the outer. But when we read the letters, we try to read them, and as we're reading them, enter into the light behind the letters. Because there's light, the Quran is light and sound. And we're only looking at the tip of the iceberg when we're reading the letters out here. And what we understand of it depends on how much we can enter into the light that's behind the letters. So the letters are the darkness, and behind them is the light. So, first question is, how do I reach that light? In order for us to come close to the light, we have to become the light, which is why the purer our mind and our heart is, the more we can enter into the light behind the letters of the Quran, behind the words of the Quran. So the Quran, for example, it's as if Allah had 1,000 words, and with those 1,000 words, He's trying to explain to us the whole universe and the whole mystery of creation with just these 1,000 words. And that actually is true of the Quran. I believe there are like 561 words commonly used, and if you learn those 561 words, you know most of the Quran, and you can understand most of the Quran in Arabic. So these 1,000 words are moved and shaped in a way so that every time you read the Quran, you get a different understanding and a different angle of the truth, of the one truth. And that's why it's one of the origins of the word qalb, which we've all learned means our heart. I'll write it on the board for those of you who are not familiar. This is the word qalb, and it comes from the root verb qalaba, which means to turn. To be moved from one side to another, to turn. So every time you read the Quran, you're reading these 1,000 words or so, every time you get a different understanding because you're reading from a different station, a different place. And you're reading from a different angle, and you're moved from one side to the other. And this is one of the origins of the word qalb, which means heart. It's one of the words that's used to describe the heart, although it's a particular station of the heart, actually, because the heart is described by different words depending on what world you're coming from when you're speaking about the heart, and what level, what depth of the heart you're describing. So when we're being moved, sometimes we're being squeezed. We're all familiar with that, right? You get squeezed, and sometimes you get expanded, you get lifted up. Sometimes you get pushed down, sometimes you get pushed up. And we're being moved by the divine names, actually. Sidi describes this as being controlled by the two fingers of the universally merciful, the two fingers of Ar-Rahman, the Jamal and the Jalal, the beauty and the majesty. But it's the qualities, actually, that turn our heart. We're always under the influence of one of the qualities, one or more of the qualities, whatever state that we're in. So we go into all states in order to enter beyond the letters into the light. So I think first we want to know what the Quran has to teach us about mercy. The first thing that the Quran teaches us is that only Ar-Rahman can be put on the same level as the name Allah. So I'm going to write here, I'm going to actually try this one in Arabic. Hope I don't mangle it too horribly. Oops. Allah says in Surah Al-Isra, Surah 17, verse 110. Isra. Allah says, oh no, this one I'm not going to try to pronounce in Arabic. Allah says, call upon Allah or call upon Ar-Rahman. Actually, the ayat begins with the command say. And when we read the command in the Quran, say, kul, this is Allah speaking to the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu salam and giving him instructions on how to speak to his followers. So Allah says in the surah, in this ayat, call upon Allah or call upon Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. By whichever name you call it, it is the same. Call upon Allah or call upon Ar-Rahman. By whichever name you call it, it is the same. To him belong the most beautiful names. So this tells us that Allah has, our relationship with Allah is built upon mercy. Allah is mercy. This is the only one of the divine names that is put on the same level as the name Allah, the essence of Allah. So it tells us that our relationship with Allah is built upon love and trust in His mercy, just like a child is able to give love in response to a mother's love. So are we able to respond to Allah's love. We obey our mothers, at least when we're young. This is not true throughout our life, I don't know about you, but when we're young, we obey our mothers, and at the same time, they fill our hearts with love. Allah, through Ar-Rahman, is asking us to enter into a relationship with Him. With Ar-Rahman, He is searching for closeness with us, wanting us to become beloveds, not because He needs us, but out of His everlasting compassion and mercy. He wants to embrace us into that mercy. That's why He created us, and why He offers us this love and mercy. So that's the first thing that Allah teaches us in the Quran, is that we can call Him by both names, Allah and Ar-Rahman, and it's the same calling. So Allah is mercy. The second surah is, second ayah, is from Surah Al-An'am, the cattle. Your Lord has decreed upon Himself mercy. Kataba Rabbukum ala nafsihi rahma. So, Kataba Rabbukum means your Lord has written or your Lord has decreed. Kataba Rabbukum. Your Lord has written or decreed upon Himself. Ala nafsihi. This is the same word that we use for our nafs, for our ego. But when we're speaking about Allah, this means the essence of Allah. So Allah has decreed upon His himself mercy, rahmah. So in a sense, Allah has said, I have put on myself to rule in mercy. And then the third ayat that I want to refer to is, sorry, I keep getting up down, is Surah Al-Araf, Surah 7, 156. Allah said, my punishment I afflict with it whom I will, and my mercy encompasses all things. And here it's using the word wasiya, which is one of the divine names, the all-encompassing. My punishment I afflict it with whom I will, and my mercy encompasses all things. Now, the concept of reward and punishment in the Quran is a pedagogical concept. Allah's aim is our completeness. Allah's aim is our completion, our perfection, so that we can enter into His community and become part of His eternal bliss. So our job as human beings is to confront our nafs, enlighten our character, and cut all the connections to evil in us by walking the path of mercy and love. Any questions about anything I said before I move on?
Will you read that last sentence again? Our job.
Our job is to confront our nafs, to be self-responsible, to confront our nafs, to enlighten our character, to increase the light in our heart. This is how we can enter into the light behind the Quran. This is how we can enter into Allah's community, is to fill our heart with light. And when we do anything that we do as Sufis, of the practices that have been recommended to us, the effect of all of them, every time we say the name Allah, there is light coming into our hearts. So we're enlightening our hearts by our practices, by our self-responsibility, and we cut all connections to the evil in us as best we can with tawbah and prayers, etc. by walking the path of mercy and love. Because, as I'll say yesterday, CD says that all stations are stations of love, and that all the divine names actually are divine names of love, different aspects of the love. It's equally true that all the divine names are divine names of mercy. They all carry mercy in various aspects, in various amounts. So by walking the path of mercy and love, we're walking the stations of love to come closer to the divine. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so what I wanted to do now was actually talk a little bit more about the phrase Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which is how we begin the Quran and how we begin every surah except one, or how Allah begins. Just underlining a few of these letters that we're going to refer to specifically here in the word Bismillah. B, these first two letters means in. Ism is name. So this is in the name of Allah, in the name of God. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the all-merciful, the compassionate. So you'll notice that the first two names that appear in the Quran and that begin almost every surah in the Quran are Allah and Rahman. We know that these names both represent Allah completely. They're equivalent. And so these are the first two names that we encounter in the Quran as we begin every surah except one. And then the next two names, or the next two names are Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. So we often think of Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim as being the first two names, but actually Allah is the divine name. And so the first two names Allah uses are Allah and Ar-Rahman. So these are the two names with which Allah addresses Himself or reveals Himself. So what I'd like to do is to read you a commentary on the use of this phrase to begin every surah. A shorthand way of referring to this, the name of this Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, is the Basmalah. If you hear somebody say Basmalah, they're speaking of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I want to read you a commentary on the Basmalah, in use of the Basmalah in the Quran from a very early teacher. And I'll write the reference to it up here. The teacher that wrote this commentary, it's very beautiful, it's not whole, but there are extracts here. His name was Rashid Ad-Din Mehbudi. And it's called The Unveiling, I'm not going to write this all up because it's long. It's called The Unveiling of the Mysteries and the Provision of the Pious. This is the longest Sunni commentary. It's the longest commentary by a Sunni Muslim in the Persian language. And Rashid Ad-Din Mehbudi was born in Iran, and he began writing his commentary in 1126. He appears to have belonged to the Shafi school of jurisprudence, which is the school that C.D. instructed Sayyid bin Yunus to teach us, at the university at least. And the translation that I'm reading is by William Chittick, who's a wonderful Muslim Islamic scholar. Hasn't been published yet, but it's online. It's actually, you can order it on Amazon, but I ordered it a year ago and it still hasn't arrived. But it's online, so you can get what's available online. So I'm going to read you an excerpt from his commentary on beginning with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ba, the letter B, is his kindness. So B in Bismi. I'm going to speak about B, S, and M in the show. Ba is his kindness, Bir, to his servants. S, Sin, his secret, Sir, with his friends. M, his favor, Minna, towards his yearness. If not for his kindness, how could the servants make ready for his secret? If not for his favor, how could the servant reach union with him? How could the servant find a place at the threshold of his majesty? If not for the beginningless affection, how could the servant be endlessly familiar? And then there's a short poem. How could water and clay have the goal to love you, had you not chosen them with your beginningless gentleness? Love is your essence, O God. This is the friend's belief. Remembering your description, O Lord, dispels the sorrow of the sorrowful. This world is goodly only through his name. The afterworld goodly only through his pardon. and the garden goodly only through his vision. If not for the message and name of God in this world, how could it be the servant's home? If not for his pardon and generosity in the afterworld, the servant's work would be difficult. If not for the heart-brightening vision of him in paradise, what would make a poor man happy? The pir of the tariqah, pir is the guide, it's a name for a guide, I assume, in the Persian tariqahs. The pir of the tariqah said, "O God, when your light lit the lamp of recognition, my heart increased. When your testimony became my spokesman, my voice increased. When your proximity lit the lamp of ecstasy, my aspiration increased. When your desire put my work in order, my effort increased. When your being set my work aright, my being increased. O God, what have I seen from my own being other than trial and trouble? From your being, all is bestowal and loyalty. O you who are apparent in kindness and plain in generosity, take what I have done as not done. Do as is fitting for you." Someone may say, in the texts of the book and the Sunnah, God's names are many, and all of them are great, beginningless, pure and beautiful. What wisdom is there in beginning the tremendous Qur'an with these three? Of all of them, why did he choose these and not add any others? The answer is that he chose these three names and confined himself to them for the sake of two meanings. First, so that his servants' work in his names would be easy, and their reward would in no way be decreased. He knew that they do not have the capacity to remember and memorize all of his many names. He knows as well. Even if there are some who can do that, most cannot, and they would remain in regret at not doing it. Hence, he combined the meanings of those names in these three names. Their meanings are of three sorts. One sort belongs to majesty and awe, another to blessing and nurture, and the third to mercy and forgiveness. All that is majesty and awe is placed in the name Allah, the name God. All that is blessing and nurture is in the name All-Merciful, Ar-Rahman. And all that is mercy and forgiveness is in the name Ever-Merciful, Ar-Rahim. Thus it is easy for the servant to say them. His rewards will be many, and God's clemency and mercy are boundless.